There are not many things in life you can be sure of, except rain comes from the clouds and sun lights up the sky. Listen, but Jesus Christ is alive. The winter turns to spring, and wounded hearts may heal. Oh, but never much too soon. Yes, everything, I said everything must change. The young become the old, and mysteries do unfold. Oh, but that's the way of time. Nothing and no one stays the same. Oh, there are not many things in life you can be sure, except rain comes from the clouds and sun lights up the sky, and Jesus Christ, He is alive. I said rain comes from the clouds and sun lights up the sky, but Jesus Christ, He is alive. I'm gonna say it again. Rain comes from the clouds and sun lights up the sky, and Jesus Christ, He is alive. No matter what changes around you, Jesus, He'll always be there. I said Jesus, He'll always be there. Rain comes from the clouds and sun lights up the sky. I want you to hear this part. And Jesus Christ, He's always alive.
One of the greatest difficulties of life is to embrace change, to move in the very thing that God has ordained and to move in it in the power that God has spoken. One thing you can always know is constant, and that will be change. That's one thing you can be sure of. The world, nations are always in flux and in change. And the very thing that holds us from that is that when you change, or when you're in the process of change, it always brings about this word called crisis. But crisis, brothers and sisters, is a natural result of change. Please understand, when you face crisis individually or we face crisis corporately, it is a sign of a doorway, and I want you to hear this, of a better life. Touch someone, say, I'm moving into a better life. I know that you find that very difficult to understand, but in all of that and in the midst of change, God is actually squeezing us, moving us into the doorway for a better life. But so many of us, because of the constant changing, the constant flux of looking. And when you look back, and many of us are sitting here today, I can remember turntables and all kind of things and record players. And now in the midst of things that's so changing so fast. But not only are things changing fast, relationships are changing. This is changing. Even the way we worship is changing. It just seems like every time you turn around, there are so many different things that are changing, and we're trying to hold to status quo. Realizing that you're not losing something, you're actually gaining something. But if you don't embrace it and understand that even in the moments that you don't understand, Jesus Christ is still alive. And he's still on the throne, which means he is orchestrating and moving in the midst of that. And if we don't make the right navigation through the process of change, you're either going to be blessed or you're either going to start to disintegrate and start moving backwards into a pattern of bitterness and then blaming it on God and others and not knowing that at the moment of change, you're at the doorway of a greater life. Our outcome rests not in the nature of the crisis or the issue, but what we do with the crisis. It is amazing because so many of us get stuck on the crisis and what's happening in the crisis when God calls you to respond to see what you do in the crisis and which direction do you go when you're in pressure. The agony of failure and the tormenting thoughts, please hear me, saints, of giving up. A lot of times in change, I'm going through torment and agonizing, and I'm agonizing over failure. We are up and giving up, and feelings are shared by both. All of that is shared by both winners and losers. Please understand that. Everybody goes through in the midst of crisis and change, of thoughts of failure, tormenting thoughts. I just want to give up. I just want to throw in the towel. But I want you to understand what people do with the situation separates the winners from the losers. Champions are those who never fail, are those who never quit. Everybody goes through the thought process of it. Everybody gets to a point where I want to throw the towel in. Everybody gets to the point when life interrogates them and they have to answer very difficult questions, and some of them they can't answer. But what makes a winner from a loser is just the winner kept pushing, because of the line that I know won't change is God. When God puts a line in the Bible and he says, even if your mama and daddy forsake you, if everything that you just, at least I want to depend on my mama and my daddy, but if they don't come through, God said, then I'll. Which means I'll never leave you or forsake you. And even in the midst when you're confused and you don't understand what's going on, be sure, even as we talk those Bill of Rights, you have some rights that I'm going to sustain and hold. And when you're in dis-ease and when you're not in peace, he said, I'll keep you in perfect peace. And so when I ever give you a promise, and if you grab hold of maneuvering yourself, he said, I will keep you in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on the crisis. He didn't say that. He said, whose mind is stayed on me. And so as you navigate through the positions of change, knowing that you have to release something to get something. You didn't hear that? Touch your neighbor, say, you got to let it go to get something. If I was to toss you $1 million and you had 1,000 in your hand, I bet you'd drop that 1,000 and catch that million. And here God is trying to toss you $1 million in a certain way, in health and in welfare and all of that, but you're still trying to hold on to the last thing. Please hear this. God challenges us with the responsibility to conduct ourselves through time of change and crisis in a manner consistent with his word. Everything God does, now hear this, is according to a pattern and is based on a principle. Say it with me. Everything God does is according to a pattern and based on a principle. Please hear this. When we learn his pattern and base our faith on his principle, our lives become productive and maximized and successful. Change comes with crisis. Now, watch this. I've talked about this before. I talked about the process of entering and leaving and what change has to do with it. And so, you know, our lives can be upset in a routine. And what change does is create new perceptions that can cause us to start to feel stress. So not only are you in crisis, now you got stress. But yet, how one leaves something determines how they're going to enter. I'm going to say that again. How you leave something determines how you're going to enter. How you leave one relationship is going to determine how you're going to go into another one. The other person you met, the other relationship you went into, they weren't that bad. You made them bad because you took bad from the last relationship. So you bring bad and then make this badder. Have you ever noticed your relationships always start out real nice? But in the back of your head, I'm just looking because sooner or later they're going to act up. And you make them act up even though they didn't act up. Because that's what you train yourself to look for. So you need to ask yourself, what am I looking for? Because how you handle the stress and the crisis of change determines what you get when you go into it. Go with me to 1 Corinthians 10:13. 1 Corinthians 10:13. I just want you to hear this. 1 Corinthians 10:13. When you have it, say amen. All right, in 1 Corinthians 10:13, it says, no temptation has overtaken you except such as common to man. But God is faithful. Say it with me. God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will also make the way of escape that you may be able to bear it. Now you got to hear this. I'm not going to be long, but please hear this. I'm going to read it from the Amplified Version. For no temptation, no trial, regardless of enticing to sin, no matter how it comes or where it leads, has overtaken you and laid hold on you that is not common to man. There's no temptation or trial has come to you beyond the human resistance that is not adjusted and adapted and belonging to the human experience and such as a man can bear. But God is faithful to his word and to his compassionate nature, and he can be trusted not to let you be tempted and tried and assessed beyond your ability and strength of resistance and power to endure. But with temptation, he will always also provide a way out. That means to escape to a landing place, that you may be capable and strong and powerful to bear up under its penalty. Now watch this. I want you to understand this. Please hear this real good. Paul taught that temptations and trials are common to man. But when they come, God will make a way of escape. Say, God, where's my escape? Now, I want you to understand this in the regards of change. God's escape pattern is never based on an escape from. Now, you need to hear this. His escape pattern is never based on escape from. It is based on, and I need you to hear this, escape to. The problem with saints is that so many of you and so many of us are praying that God get us out of something and not understand that what God is trying to do is get you to somewhere. He's not trying to deliver you out of this so you can stay here. He's trying to take you from here to there. So whenever you're in the midst of knowing that God has made things uncomfortable And where you were, you have run out. Your brook has dried up. There's no one bringing you food. It does not any longer bring you the joy it used to have. Some of you are having seances in life, trying to get old stuff to bring you the joy it used to bring. And God is sitting up and telling you it's run out. And what I'm trying to do is take you